You're all set.
Calling this meeting to order. It is May 17th, and this is the Finance Administration Committee and a special meeting of the Board of Directors. Welcome to all who are here. So with that, I'll ask our staff to determine that we have a quorum.
In Houston, for the purpose of determination of quorum, Director Harold Williams. Here. Chair Houston.
Here.
Director Gloria Gray. Director Don Deere.
Here.
Director Desi Alvarez. Here in Houston, we do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you very much. 3 out of 5 are present. So with that, do we have any public comment at this time?
Mr. Chairman, we have not received any requests for public comment. We are holding this meeting virtually, so if there's any member of the public that is here virtually that would like to make a public comment, please indicate so by raising your digital hand. Mr. Chairman, I do not see any members of the public choosing or wishing to make public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving forward, we have no presentations. So we will go to item 5, which is our action calendar. Okay, if you will lead us with item 5A.
Yes, the item before you is under your action calendar. It's 5A, approval of the minutes. And we have 2 items underneath this calendar. And for this item, we do have our newly appointed board secretary, Desiree Quintero.
Okay, item 5A is approval of the minutes. We have for your consideration approval of the March 25th, 2023 special board meeting minutes, which can be found beginning on page 6 of your packet. We also have the March 29th, 2023 special board meeting minutes, which can be found beginning on page 10 of your packet. So it is the recommendation that the board approve the March 25th, 2023 special board meeting minutes and the March 29th, 2023 special board meeting minutes.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions, colleagues, Director Williams?
No, thank you.
And anything, Director Deere? All right, so what's your recommendation?
I recommend this goes to the board for approval.
Excellent. All right, so with that, we'll move to the board for approval. Monthly board meeting. Let's see, item 5B as in boy, fiscal year 2022-23 community outreach events. We have, it's like 4, so I think just go through all 4 in one swoop. That'd be great.
Happy to do so, Mr. Chairman. I do want to make sure that I clarify that this item is entitled the 2022-2023 community outreach events. However, 2 of these events will actually take place in the next fiscal year. And I'll point that out as I move through. I just want you to be aware that we're going to amend the committee memo, which begins on packet page 17, to indicate that those 2 items will be assessed in the next fiscal year budget. But we'll work with the organizations to align with the events and our participation. The first event that we have here is the 10th Council District Women's Steering Committee. It's their 45th Annual Scholarship Awards. Director Gray has requested consideration for West Basin Municipal Water District to sponsor the 10th Council District Women's Steering Committee's 45th Annual Scholarship Awards fundraiser luncheon. She's asked that we consider this in the amount of $1,500. And I would grant West Basin an advertisement promoting district awareness. West Basin has previously sponsored this event this fiscal year in the 2022-2023 in the amount of $3,000 for the event that was held on Saturday, July 23rd, 2022. The next item that we have is the El Camino College Foundation Community Partners. Director Houston and Director Deere requested consideration for West Basin to sponsor the El Camino College Foundation Community Partners Program for the 2023-2024 school year. This is one of those items that I just mentioned that will take place in the next school year. The 2 directors have requested that we consider a $2,500 sponsorship. We would grant West Basin district booth table to distribute district information at a future campus career fair. And West Basin has previously sponsored this event in fiscal year 2021-2022 in the amount of $2,500. The third item is the PV Peninsula Chamber of Commerce's PV Street Fair and Music Festival. Director Williams has requested that the district consider to sponsor the PV Peninsula Chamber of Commerce PV Street Fair and Music Festival, scheduled to be held on Saturday, June 10th and Sunday, June 11th. Director Williams would like the board to consider a $1,000 scholarship that would grant West Basin a booth and table to distribute district information and advertisement promoting district awareness. West Basin has not previously sponsored this event. And the last of the items is the Empower Her Institute's 2023 Pathmaker Awards Gala. Director Houston and Director Gray request consideration for West Basin to sponsor the Empower Her Institute's 2023 Pathmaker Awards Gala event scheduled to be held on Friday, October 20th, 2023. As I previously stated, there were 2 events that would be held in the next fiscal year. This is the second one of those. Director Houston and Director Gray would like the board to consider a $3,000 scholarship that would grant West Basin an advertisement promoting district awareness. West Basin has
I
not.
mean, sponsorship.
Excuse me. West Basin has not previously sponsored this event. We've discussed this obviously in the past. There are 3 requirements that we look at that each event would have to provide at least one of the 3. It's a speaking opportunity for a district representative or a district booth or table to distribute district information or an advertisement promoting district awareness. All 4 of the events have been vetted by staff, and all 4 of the events include one of those 3 and sometimes more. And so with that, I would like to read the recommendation. It's that the board consider approving the sponsorship of, and if the chair would like, I can read all 4.
Okay.
The 10th Council District Women's Steering Committee's 45th Annual Scholarship Awards and Fundraiser Luncheon event scheduled to be held on Saturday, June 24th, 2023, in the amount of $1,500 as requested by Director Gray. 2, El Camino College Foundation Community Partners Program for the 2023-2024 school year in the amount of $2,500 as requested by Directors Houston and Deere. 3, the PV Peninsula Chamber of Commerce's PV Street Fair and Music Festival event scheduled to be held on Saturday, June 10th, 2023, and Sunday, June 11th, 2023, in the amount of $1,000 as requested by Director Williams. And 4, the Empower Her Institute's 2023 Pathmaker Awards Gala event scheduled to be held on Friday, October 20th, 2023, in the amount of $3,000 as requested by Director Houston and Gray. And I would like to add to that the each of the event would be assessed on the fiscal year in which the event would be held. So items 1 and 3 would be in this fiscal year, while items 2 and 4 would be assessed in the next fiscal year when those events would be held.
Excellent, thank you. So that means page 54 would probably change a little bit if these got approved when it comes to the our budget.
That is
Yes,
correct.
technically.
The 2 events that would be on the next fiscal year would be added there. We would work with those organizations to reserve the sponsorship.
Sure.
So the checks would likely be paid, but it would be assessed in the next fiscal year.
Perfect. And just one item of note, I think in the past, maybe it was a handful of years ago, I think we did do something with Empower Her before, I believe, some years ago. Yeah, I see Margaret nodding her head, yes. So I do recall between Director Gray and myself, we supported that in the past. All right, well, with that, I have no questions.
No, why, it looks good to me.
Thanks. Director Deere. All right, so I would recommend it moves forward for approval by the board and Director Williams.
I concur.
He concurs. Okay. Thank you, and thank you, EJ, for that explanation. I forgot about that. Some of these events were right in the midst of the calendar. So with that, let's move on to item 5C as in cat, a district sponsorship.
Chairman. It's on page 55. This is a fiscal year 2020 district sponsorship request. This is for the 2023 Water Reuse California Annual Conference. The district has received a sponsorship request for the 2023 Water Reuse California Annual Conference being held in Indian Wells, California. Staff recommends that the board consider sponsoring the 2023 Water Reuse California Annual Conference scheduled to be held from Sunday, November 5th through November 7th of 2023 in the amount of $3,000. West Basin has previously sponsored this conference in fiscal year 2021-22 in the amount of $3,000. This year event offers 5 tiers of exclusive sponsorships outlined below. This would provide us with the silver sponsorship. And if you begin to turn your packet page to begin on packet page 57, you can actually go through that material and you can identify where the silver membership is, which is on packet page 59. And that does provide 1 complimentary registration, an attendee contact list pre and post event. It offers an opportunity to sponsor a tier 3 conference event with branding. It offers a company information on the website. It offers company information on the on-site program, and it provides signage recognition throughout the conference. With that, I'd be happy to leave the recommendation. The board consider sponsoring the 2023 Water Reuse California Annual Conference to be held from Sunday, November 5th, 2023 through Tuesday, November 7th, in the amount of $3,000. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Great, thank you, GJ. I fully support this, number 1, but number 2, you said it includes a tier 3 sponsorship opportunity. Is that what you mentioned apparently?
Correct. So within the water reuse conference, there are certain events, for instance, the lunches that are that tier 1, but then they have breakfast and then they have social. We would have to look and identify what that tier 3 is. But if you look at the bottom of packet page 59, it gives you some of the ideas. The Sunday refreshment break, the Monday continental breakfast, the Monday refreshment breaks, and Tuesday refreshment breaks. So we would work with Jennifer West, the executive director of California Water Reuse, to identify the best opportunity.
Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah, I would, if this gets approved, definitely work on that, whatever, since it's included.
Right.
The best visibility would be great. All right, well, I have no other questions. Director Williams, got questions?
No questions?
Can't believe we're already planning for November here. Director Deere, any questions?
Nothing.
All right, so with that, I would recommend approval of this at the board meeting. Director Williams?
I concur.
All right. Okay, great. Thank you, EJ. I guess one note also, probably same story, is this doesn't really count toward the current fiscal year budget if it gets approved. That will move on to item 5D as in dog. Fiscal year 2023-24 standby charge public hearing and adoption.
That is correct, President and Chair Houston. The next item that we have is item 5D. It's the fiscal year 2023-2024 standby charge public hearing and adoption. And for this item, we have Mary Rexroad, our manager of finance.
Thank you, EJ. Good morning, President Houston, members of the board. I will be presenting on item 5D, which begins at page 64 of your packet. Each year, as your board considers the adoption of the annual standby charge, it does need to conduct a public hearing. Currently, the public hearing is set for Monday, May 22nd. Per our annual process, staff did place those public notices on the website, within the papers. We also had our district council review the public notice itself just to make sure we have correctly done so. We did not hear any feedback or any sort of comments on those public notices. We also did prepare a resolution, which is attached for you on page 65 of the packet. I'm sorry, 67 through 71 of the packet. This was also reviewed by our district council as well. Within the resolution, staff did include the rates that would be suggested for the fiscal year 23-24 standby charges. Those can be found on page 65 of the packet as well. The rates that you see before you are per the settlement between Rassagar versus West Basin. And if you could turn to page 65, I just want to run through those very quickly. As you may recall, the settlement did separate the residents within the city of West Hollywood from those outside the city of West Hollywood. So we have two sets of rates, if you will. And just keep in mind the rates for the city of West Hollywood. This would be the last year that those would be imposed per the settlement. The rates for the parcels outside of that area would continue on and slowly be, if you will, reduced. And then, well, it doesn't always reduce, but it will be phased out by 2030. So the rates I'll read before you are those in place for 23-24. So outside the West Hollywood area, the settlement does establish the rates for a single family at a rate of $14.40 per parcel or for portions of a parcel. If you are on a multi-unit residential unit, that would be $9.60 a unit. And then it would be $72 per parcel for any non-residential. Anything greater than that would be a multiplication of that. Moving down to the areas that are outside or located within the city of Hollywood, as I mentioned, those would end this year, and those are at a rate of $6.40 for a multi-unit residential property and $9.60 per parcel for a single family or duplex residential property, and $48 for a non-residential property. I do have the recommendation that I'd like to read for you, that the board conduct a public hearing. After the conclusion of the public hearing, consider approving, adopting, and authorizing the president to sign resolution number 05231194, a resolution of the Board of Directors of West Basin Municipal Water District imposing the standby charge for fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, and repealing resolution number 05221160. And that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mary Ann. So the public hearing will take place on May 22nd, which is our upcoming board meeting. Very good. I have no questions. Any questions, Director Williams?
This is standard operational procedure, right?
Correct. Yes, yes, it is.
No questions.
Thank you.
Here.
No questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And I did see, I think in one of our local publications, the announcement for the public. So, I just happened to see that. So I know you all did your work to get the information out. And I've heard nothing from anybody, quite frankly. So anyways, with that, I think we should recommend this goes forward as recommended by our staff to the board. William.
I concur.
Very good. So thank you. Much EJ and staff, and let's move on now. Information calendar, item 6A. EJ.
This brings us to the information calendar, as you mentioned. Item 6A is our fiscal year 2022-2023 third quarter budget to actual results. And for this presentation, we do have Wendy Nakamura, our principal accountant.
Thank you, EJ. Good morning, Chairman Houston, member of the committee. To cover fiscal year 23 third quarter budget to actual results, I would like to go over a presentation with you, starting on page 76 of your package. So on page 76, we provide operation results for the first 9 months of fiscal year 23. The total operating revenue, as you can see, is $17.3 million lower than the budget. However, at the same time, our total operating expenses is $19.6 million lower than the budget as well. Our net revenue, which is the revenue minus expenses, is $6 million. Which is better than the budget of 3.6. Debt coverage is 1.38, which is better than the budget of 1.23. We will go over more details in the next slides. Let's turn to page 78. So on page 78, we break down West Basin operating revenue into 5 categories. As you can see, potable water sales are $16 million lower than the budget. Recycling water is 2.2 million lower than the budget. Please turn to page 79. So on page 79, we explained why potable water sales is $16 million lower than the budget. That is because we have, the sales is 9,700 acre feet lower than the budget. The reason for that is pretty much majorly due to the conservation message, Metropolitan Water District pipeline shutting down, and then significant rain from December to April 23. Please turn to page 80. On page 80, we explain why the recycling revenues, recycling water sales is a $2.2 million than the budget. We listed the acre feet, the sales, being sold, and then being budget. So in here, as you can see, the barrier water sales is about $3,000 less than the budget. And then the reason for the barrier water sales is lower, pretty much because there is a limitation for the injection. And then we also have a water quality issue from January to March 2023. We have some equipment issue as well. Turn to
So-
page,
Can you hold on for one?
yes.
Just along the way, actually, let's go back really quickly to page 78. Because it also had a note that the water use efficiency income is down at the moment. Is that because we haven't received some refunds on the grants, or why is that?
Oh, yeah, this is like, we have some delay on billing. Basically, we have some grass replacement project that we have in the submitting for reimbursement because we have to be, all the grass reimbursement have to be inspected.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll see by the year end that this will be catch up.
That. Okay, and then on page 80.
Yes.
So on the disinfected tertiary, it's down, but is that's the outdoor irrigation, right? Isn't that just the basic? Probably
Yeah.
because of
The rain.
rain and everything, so obviously it makes sense. I'm on your little bullet point or your asterisk, the number 2, at leaking value repaired, what exactly does that mean? Leaking value repaired performed.
I think it's a valve.
Oh,
It's a
Okay.
typo. Thank you
Okay.
for catching that.
Gotcha. So a leaking valve was repaired, repaired, performed, you guys can tweak that, but leaking valve repaired by LA County, so.
Yeah, this
Remind us
was
what that
second quarter, Suzanne? I'm not trying to remember when that happened. Yes, there was some repair work that was done by the county, which caused them to then again limit the amount of injection into the barrier.
But they obviously had to repair it and pay for it.
Correct. It wasn't on our side, yes.
Okay, and the refinery sales dropped the barriers down, which we understand a lot of that, but the rehab. Okay. Thank you. All right, you can go ahead.
Okay, so let's go over the information on page 81 of your package. On page 81, we listed the actual sales of each recycling water with a budget for you to review.
And again, just to point out, you can see if you look from column to column, we have I'll say our major differences, as Wendy pointed out, within the barrier. We do have some high points in the sense that some of the nitrification, in particular Chevron, we're doing better than budget. If you recall, we had a project plan to replace a tank, and that project's been delayed, so we're seeing higher sales in that area than what we budgeted for.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so please turn to page 83 of your package. On page 83, we'll explain the operating expenses in details. As you can see, both potable and recycling water sales are lower than the budget. Therefore, the purchase of potable water and the operation cost of the recycling water facility are also lower than the budget. On next page, page 84, we lay out the major cost category of the recycling water operation. Next, I will explain the non-operation.
Can I just interrupt for a moment?
Right.
Sorry, Wendy. I just want to point out a couple items on page 84. As Wendy noted, we are spending less within the recycled water operations budget. Just want to note what those items are. You can see that in your contract operations. So there's some unfilled position over at Veolia. We also see lower solids management, primarily due to just, again, less production. We also have a reduction in the chemicals, but keep in mind, we did amend this budget several times to add dollars for the chemicals. So that number may not be as, I'll say, positive by the end of the year. It depends again with the increases that we're seeing in the chemicals and the amount that's being used in the production. So just wanted to point out a couple of items there.
You can.
Okay, please turn to page 86 of your package. Page 86, we explain the non-operating revenue and the expenses. So this one, as of March 2023, the budget and then the actual is pretty much in par. Next slide, which is page 87. The total CIP cost is $16 million for the first nine months of fiscal year 23. For the last slide of this presentation on page 88, based on the financial data we had at March 2023, we projected this year debt coverage will be 1.59, better than the budget of 1.28.
And just to note, one of the reasons that is Margaret has explained, I think, a couple of times, we have applied for the reimbursement from the state grant. And so we are anticipating those monies to come in before the end of the year. So we've reflected that in here.
Which state grant was that?
This is for the JMM expansion project.
That is conclude the third quarter budget to actual presentation. Have any questions I can answer?
Great, thank you. I don't have any further questions, but I'll ask my colleagues, Director Williams. Any
No,
questions?
thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you for that. And we'll move on to the next item, is our quarterly debt and swap report, item 6B is in board.
Yes, Chairman Houston. The next item, as you mentioned, 6B, it's the quarterly debts and swap report. This item does begin on packet page 90. And again, for this presentation, we do have Wendy Nakamura, our principal accountant.
Chairman Houston, member of the committee, on page 96, 92 page of March 2023, West Basin has a 186 million outstanding debt. For fiscal year 23, our debt payment is about $20.9 million. That concludes this item. If you have any questions.
No real questions. When do you make the payment? During the fiscal year, obviously.
I can answer.
Yeah.
Let me also sort of state that, so we make semi-annual payments regarding the debt. So the next payment will be made in July for the August 1st payment. That will include both principal and interest. So I will say 3/4 of the monies, if you will, that 21 million or so would be paid in July towards that payment. And then during the year, if you will, we sort of replenish the coffers with the amounts that we received from the standby charge to help us pay it towards that debt. We then have the second payment done in January for the February 1st payment, and that will be interest only. I will also note that we say this is our quarterly debt and swap, but as the board knows that they took action to terminate the swap and also remove the requirement for a swap policy. So this will be the last time. We just wanted to have a statement in this board report to reflect that we no longer will be reporting on the quarterly swap since we no longer have a policy that requires us to do so.
Any questions? Dr. Williams?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Next item, 6C is in CAT, our monthly financial report.
Yes, Chairman Houston, this item will be presented by Marianne Rexroad, our manager of finance, as well as Sandra Ruiz, our accountant too, and it does begin on packet page 95.
Thank you, EJ. Yes, Sandra and I will tag team. I'll just start off. Again, we're starting on page 92. This is your required, 95. This is the required monthly reporting that we do each month, which includes your monthly demands, cash and investments, our water sales, and then our travel reports. So I'm going to hand it off to Sandra to take the first two items, and then I'll follow up with the third, and she'll finish it up.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Chairman, Houston, members of the board. If I can ask you to turn to packet page 97, and that begins item 6CA, the demands list for the period ending April 30th, 2022. List ends on packet page 103, and you will see that total payments equal 18.6 million, and this represents district operating and capital type expenses for the month. A couple items that we wanted to point out. If I could ask you to please turn to packet page 98, and about halfway through the page, check number 89458. There was a per direction of legal counsel, legal sentable payment was made. That out. The next item would be on packet page 101.
What page was that?
The one I just mentioned was packet page 9.
Dr. Houston, that was 89,458. Sandra was referring to.
89,458.
Okay, and then the next one would be packet page 101. And the check number is 89539, and that check was issued to JR Lack Construction. This is J&M and Phase 2 expansion. That payment was $3 million. I just want to point that out. Next item is on the next page, 102. And that would be check number 89568, and that payment was made to the county. And this was for the 2022 election costs, and that was $700.
Keep in mind, this is we get every other year, so we just wanted to point that out. We won't see that in the next year, but we'll see it in the following year.
On that one, and I just don't know the answer. I mean, it's obviously, we know it, every 2 years, these hefty amounts come in. And last year, we had 3 folks up from the board, although one was unopposed. Did they
They still charge
still
them.
charge you almost the same amount?
They, I don't recall the same amount. Do you recall? the
I
same
don't
amount?
know, we can get the details,
Yeah.
but essentially, it is about, your number of ballots, your precincts and printing costs that occur. And so there is an allocated portion that goes to each sort of seat, if you will, that's up. But I would say the majority of the costs were for the two where there is a contested race.
We have two more coming up next fiscal year.
It's in 2024, so it hits the 24-25 budget, so not the upcoming 23-24 budget, but 24-25 budget, you will see that there.
The costs from the county have been going up, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, so I would say on average, you can anticipate maybe 300,000 around. I mean, if majority of, like I said, is coming here, so 3 to 350s could be what you anticipate coming up for the next election.
Seats up. So, got it. Okay.
It'll be the same amount, but but it will be 2 years.
Thank you.
Okay, and the final item we wanted to point out was on packet page 103, and that is the Metropolitan Water District bill, which was 9.1 million. So list, there are any other items?
Any questions?
No, thank you.
I do have a question only, because I see it maybe once or twice here, bonds, industrial repair, we had a pump repair on the barrier. And I think I heard about it in the past, but can you remind us what was that about?
Would you like to share that?
To the farm's pump repair.
Yes.
So as Wendy mentioned that we've been having to rebuild and redo a lot of the pumps due to the water quality that we have been addressed for the last year and a half. So we have a number of pumps that needed to be repaired. So that is one of the items that we just needed and invoiced.
But those are pumps that obviously we own and operate versus the county, huh?
Correct. So these are the pumps within ECL treatment plant.
Oh, in the So I see one was at least, what, 15,000 lately, and then there was one other I think I saw earlier.
The number of pumps that needed to be rehabbed.
Y'all probably talk more about that at ENO, but curious. Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Okay, moving
Go
on,
ahead.
go on to item 6CB. This is our cash and investments reports, again, for the period ending April 30th of 2023, which begins on packet page 104. At the top, you can see a portfolio summary, and our total market value is 71.6 million. To the right of that is a pie graph, which shows all the investments we have. And as you can see, we're very diversified. On the next packet page, 105, is our credit quality distribution bar graph. You can see that the portfolio is highly rated with a lot of investments, all of them actually, in A or AA, AAA investments. The next page, packet page 106, is the maturity distribution portfolio, a bar graph that it was very highly liquid. The next page, packet page 107, the transaction ledgers for the month. It lists all the acquisitions, calls, and maturities for the month. Did want to kind of point out that we had two of our small and community bank CDs that did mature, Textures and Cities First. Our goal is to reinvest them, but in light of all the bank failures, we thought it prudent to take a step back, our investment management team, and discuss kind of metrics we could put in place. Invest in something that might go up.
And if I could just clarify, we would be secured with the FDIC, but having that sort of reputational risk of like you invested with a bank that now been under. We don't feel that any of our banks would be there, but then again, nobody thought certain banks would be going under. So again, we, as Sandra said, are taking a more discrete look at sort of some of the metrics, if you will, that want to should take a look at before we reinvest, and we'll bring that back to you hopefully by the end.
I was just gonna ask on that, because normally, at least with these, you usually invest at 250,000 or less, right?
Correct, exactly. And so we are secured it with that. But again, knowing that there has been questions about Silicon Valley Bank, we've had, First Republic has gone under, Credit Suisse, and Signature Bank has also gone under. We also wanted just to make sure we had a better understanding. So if the board had questions, we would have answers. And so we've taken a pause, but still do plan to be, they're investing within our community so that they can invest within the community itself with loans and other programming.
And then packet pages 108 through 115 are a listing of all the holdings within the portfolio. And then packet pages 116 through 119 are the policy terms. That concludes the cash and investment reports. If there are any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Question two, because I see, how many of the community investments we still have left? Malaga, right? We still have Malaga.
We do have them. We do have still some investment with City First. And then,
It goes for two right now.
yeah, I
We
think
have,
so.
Yeah.
And so we do intend to go back with Manufacturers Bank. Part of it too is just trying to understand there's such a range of rates. Still some are under 1%. Some are at 4%. So trying to understand why are some 1 versus 4, so that when we come back to you, we understand why that is, as well, so that we have better answers for you. Because it's nice to go get the 4%, but if they're not in a well-situated position, the vice versa. So that's the reasons we are wanting to get more information before we are investing our funds there. The banks, we've had an open conversation with them, so they're aware that we do intend to continue with them, but we just need to do a little bit more due diligence so we can address any questions that may come from the board.
Very good. Because it seems like we have fewer options, obviously, now.
Yeah, and we also are looking at a couple new additional banks, if you will, that will be in different parts of our service area. And so they would be at the FDIC limit, up to the FDIC limit. We probably would do a little bit less so that both the interest and the principal would be under the FDIC limit. So it would be not much, but something under.
And Malaga Bank, when does theirs mature? It's still right,
With them, they have a couple things with us. They have a particular one is through a money market, which again, we're looking at the rate there because we're only getting 0.75 basis points. So we're not getting much in comparison to other interest rates out there where we see 4%. So we are looking with them to see if we can improve on that. It's called ICS. What that does is it provides us some more flexibility. So if we need to draw the funds, we can do so, as opposed to investing into a CD through the CDARS program, which would lock us into a certain period of time. Typically, we have done 1 year, and now we're again contemplating that because again with the market moving, the Fed funds, and now we think here that the Feds are possibly going to pause and maybe even looking at rate reductions sometime later this year. So all of that is being taken into consideration as we look at our program here, knowing very well that the board is still wants to support our community, and we want to make sure we're doing so without sort of really jeopardizing the rest of our community by saying, oh, we got less than 1%, and now we have to get our money somewhere else. So.
My last question is, we did change when we have folks come to present to us. I don't recall the new metrics, but
essentially if it's greater than $1 million, so most of the ones are going to be less than $1 million at any given time. So, but what we did agree to is that because they're not going to necessarily come see you every month or certain months, if you will, we would provide you an annual report that would tell you sort of like what they are still doing in the community. At any time, if you would like to hear from one of those banks, we're more than happy to invite them in to come in and have them speak to you, even though that's not required by the policy. I'm sure that they would be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, because I would like us to, could ask some of them if they want to look at the calendar for the rest of the calendar year and see if there might be a time they'd like to come and say a few words, because I feel like you're right, we get a little out of touch if they don't come in and showcase us. And I know that, I mean, Malaga, I'm asking more questions because I see that they have sort of upped their community presence more recently. So I think that might be good for us to hear from them, but also maybe some of the others. So just, I would ask if you can ask all of them if they're interested, if they're open to having them come by at some point.
May I confirm too, would you like them present in the room or would you be okay with a Zoom?
They could-
or Teams?
They could do Zoom, if it's most convenient. I mean, ideally, they would come, but whatever works best for them. Okay. But it'd be nice to just kind of hear some of the work, even though I know we pushed up that limit.
Yeah, I just know at one point too, it was like 5 months in a row, we were
It
here
was a lot.
a bank. And no, thank you for that guidance. Appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, any other questions?
Good.
Okay, I think we're getting toward the end of this.
I will pass it on to Mary Ann to present the next item.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Sandra. So I'll be presenting the monthly water sales. It begins on page 120 of your packet. This is through the period of April 30th, 2023. So on page 120, we'll start at the very top of the page. There we have our imported retail sales. Surprisingly, the month of April was less than budget and less than last year. We did look into, why some of that was. I thought at first it was rainfall, but it really wasn't that. It was slightly more. It wasn't a lot of rain last year nor this year. So I can probably attribute that to most of the discussions we've had about conservation, and then obviously the if you will, the installation of the grass, the turf, and things like that. Those are probably saving a lot of potable, if you will, sales in that sense. And then if you look at the year to date, we are down below our budget about 13% or 11,000 acre feet. And you've heard Wendy describe through the end of the quarter, that seems to be continuing on, at least in the month of April. Moving down under the imported barrier sales, we had 837 acre feet for the month. I'll just point out most of it was for injection into the West Coast barrier. We had a little bit into the Dominguez Gap. That was a little higher than what we budgeted and a little higher than last month as well. On a year-to-date basis, we're trending pretty darn close to budget, less than last year. But if you recall, last year we did have, the issues with the Hyperion spill, and therefore we had to make up a lot of water using potable water versus the recycled water. Moving on to page 121. Maybe I'll just stop. There was any questions on retail or barrier on the imported water sales?
Any questions, Director?
So let's move on to page 121. Again, at the top of the page is your graph on the recycled water sales. Through the month of April, we had about 24,300 acre feet. That's just down below a budget of 27 through April. For the month of April, we were just under budget, about 400 acre feet, and pretty much close to last year, about 100 acre feet less than last year. If I could have you look down at the chart right below, you'll see for the month of April, we break down our sales in sort of these categories of the barrier, the refineries, and disinfected tertiaries. So again, kind of consistent with Wendy had said, our barrier sales have been lower than budget, and that continued in the month of April as well. It's my understanding from operations that most of that was due to the membrane performance. We were hit with some poor quality water in that first quarter of the calendar year. And so the membranes haven't been performing as well, and there had to be some shutdowns and things like that. So we are hoping at the end of the year, this will pick up for the next 2 months. And then the other, I just want to point out that under our refineries, we are, as I mentioned before, trending a little better, probably because, again, we did not budget to have a full year of Chevron nitrification sales, which are happening because of the delay in the project. And on the year-to-date basis, in that last chart at the bottom there, pretty much the same story. You can see, and again, our barrier is under budget about 3,800 acre feet or almost 40%. And then we're slightly better on the refineries. But keep in mind too, I think I've mentioned a couple of times that we've had to supplement some potable water into the refineries to, so part of that fuel uptick is because of that injection of potable water. But overall, we are better than budget. And that really concludes my report. Unless there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions?
Well, thank you.
I do have a thought while I'm sitting here, and that is, you know, when I look at the water sales are trending down with the climate, with all the things that West Basin's been doing, but it made me think about, I would like, if you all could just give us some sort of a very easy document, metropolitan, that shows us how each of the agencies are doing on water sales. I know as a whole, metropolitan sales are down, right? But can you all get from them a breakdown of where we're all tracking? Because obviously West Basin, we're trending downward on what we bought. I'm assuming a number of the other agencies are as well, mostly this year because of the rain and the snow. But I would love to see kind of how we're all doing, because, you know, we're doing what we have been doing and are at the point we're at, which does impact net. But I'd love to see how we trend relative to some of the other agencies. So quite frankly, if you could get the data from Metropolitan for all the member agencies and just, you know, how everyone's been doing the last 2-3 fiscal years or whatever they're buying.
Yeah.
Is that possible?
It's easy to do, but I just want to caution that the look of it may not speak to the realities. And I'll give you just a few examples. This city of Los Angeles, LADWP, they have the LA Aqueduct. They're going to have more water than they've ever had to deal with in their life. And so their water purchases from Metropolitan Water District will be not just decreased, but close to zero. If you look at San Diego County Water Authority, they have the IID transfer and they have a lot of surface water and stormwater capture. So their sales are going to drastically be reduced. And then if you go into the Inland Empire and up into the San Gabriel area, upper district, you know, they have so much groundwater and surface water that West Basin is somewhat unique in the sense that we have recycled water and then we have imported water. Groundwater's kind of remained flat for most of this period. So really what we have is conservation. So when I look at our numbers, I say that's conservation. But some of the other member agencies, you'll see significant decreases in purchases from imported water or Metropolitan Water District. But then you'll have to kind of really look at it to see what portion of that is conservation, because they have so many alternative supplies. But we'll get you something. We'll kind of look at the data and make sure that we're trying to get as close to apples as we can.
Very good. The main thing I would just like to see is, again, maybe even in the last 3 years or what have you, but what is the percentage of water sales, or how much they purchased, if you will, from that for all the member agencies? Because obviously it's significant based on climate issues, based on conservation issues, based on what happened last year when we were in a major drought up in the north end of the county. So basically, they probably were hardly buying with anything but the bare minimum that they could get a hold of, right, up in Las Virgenes or somewhere. So just to see, though, how everyone's tracking, I do understand, of course, LA, San Diego, totally different situation on their resources, but ultimately, you know, I think every agency's been doing pretty well to serve and buy less water, but that's impacting sales and it's also impacting their own budget. It's impacting our budget. So I just like to see just even an easy spreadsheet or what have you. You can throw in the analysis on the side, but that'd be great.
We can easily bring that, and I think maybe
You could just send it to the board, right? Yeah. I mean, I think if you just send us something next couple weeks, I don't think it's really hard to get that info from Met. But also it would help us to understand too. I mean, this goes back to Metropolitan's situation, their business model. So if all of us agencies continue to do what we're doing, and then climate Now, it was hurting us before, now we're kind of being helped. We got a lot of water system at the moment, but oh, it's another story. Thank you for that. BJ. No other questions this time. I don't think you guys quite finished this year. I think there's what, one or two?
There's one more that Sandra will take that's up to
Go ahead.
So the final item, item 6CB on packet page 122 is the director's conference and travel expense report for the period ending April 2023. Then the final page, packet page 123, item number 6CE is executive managed and staff travel expenses and for the period ending April 2023. And that does conclude the report.
Great, thank you. Any questions, Director Williams?
No, thank you.
Director Gear? Good. I have no question further on this report. Thank you very much for that. Where are we at? Closed session. We have no closed session.
Correct.
So director comments and future agenda items. So with that, I'll open it up to my colleagues, Director Williams. Anything?
No, thank you.
Director Gear?
I just keep thinking our finance department's got to be one of our finest departments.
Whoa.
Let me see, I have just a couple thoughts. So one I talked about net. Two is I just saw the county assessment, LA County assessment numbers are going to be coming out soon, I believe. It won't be in the distant future. The county's new assessment numbers are coming out. Is that correct? I just saw like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it actually has a direct impact to us because we don't get any sort of property tax associated with it. Certainly will have an impact to Metropolitan Water District as it relates to their funding that they collect through that, but we don't have anything there.
The assessed value of everything's going to be going up. That was what the assessor Prang was saying.
Correct, yes.
So I guess in our metropolitan family, I don't know what, probably won't change how
The number of seats or
our
what's.
seats or our vote, et cetera, in that regard. But I mean, the reality is that the property values have gone up again in this region. So West Basin will be valued at even more.
Yes, you're absolutely correct that it will have more of an impact at Metropolitan Water District as it relates to those things that I'm sure EJ and his water policy team will provide you that.
Yeah, once we analyze the data for each of the member agencies, we can provide you that information. Where that impacts West Basin is that you'll have the assessed valuation of the entire Metropolitan Water District service area. And then based on the percent of each assessed valuation for each member agency within the totality of Metropolitan Water District, that's how they have their weighted vote. So though West Basin may go up in our assessed valuation, if everybody goes up equally, which won't always be the case, we'll have relatively the same amount of our weighted vote, but we'll have to look at that and see where we're at.
You all, I know you normally give us a report on that once that's officially come out, I guess. So I don't know if it's in this committee or in the water policy committee.
Would like would come through, we would include it in our Metropolitan Water District update.
On your radar. The other item is I did happen to look at El Segundo City Council had a meeting this week, and they had a report from city manager on Hyperion. They do this every meeting now. And the city manager mentioned they recently had a meeting with new council member Tracy Park, who represents the area of Los Angeles that includes Hyperion. And so I actually would ask our general manager, I think if you would reach out to the city manager's office over there in El Segundo and talk to Gerald George to learn more about that. Get out that meeting. We're trying to work very cooperatively with the city. At the same time, we've got litigation and a lot of issues going on there, but I would like to bring that to your attention that is happening. I think the city of El Segundo has been very proactive on a lot of things where they have not always in the past, including Assemblymember Miritsuchi is working on a bill as well up in Sacramento in Hyperion. So just letting you know, this is what I just saw has transpired, and if, EJ, if you would please call him and look into that, and at some point, of course, we probably should have a meeting with Ms. Park as well, and her staff. But I'm just so glad to see that there's a lot of cooperation happening, even though there's a lot of issues. And I'm really proud. We got a lot of new leadership in the area, so these are good times to build those relationships. And so with that, there's a budget workshop next on Wednesday, correct? What's the date?
The 24th?
24th. Next day, 2:00, budget workshop. 24th, we have our board meeting next Monday on the 22nd. And
I can read tomorrow, right?
my community meeting is tomorrow at 11, right? Engineering operations today at 4. Is there anything else we're missing?
Stay here.
And with that, also, this says here our next scheduled meeting, our next regular scheduled meeting is scheduled to be held on June 21st, 2023. And so with that, we are adjourned.
I'll be here.